Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Infinite Crypto Cruisers. Hey there, folks. My name is Brad Varnell, and this is the Infinite Crypto YouTube channel. And today I have an incredible guest on the show. I met this young man a couple of years ago through a mutual project that we were both excited about. It turned out that we were both fairly new to YouTube. He has his own YouTube channel, and we just really hit it off. This guy is sharp. He lives on the other side of the world. He's in the Netherlands, but him and I really connected. He's a beautiful family and a couple of young kids that he's providing for. And he's just got a serious excitement and passion for cryptocurrency and creating wealth in his life. And now through his YouTube channel, Crypto with Rico, his name is Rico. Crypto with Rico is his YouTube channel. He is helping hundreds of other people achieve their dreams. And I'm so glad and honored that he took the time out of his day to come onto the channel and spend some time with us and kind of tell you guys a little bit about his story, where he came from and where he's going. And just anyways, man, thank you so much for being here, Rico. It's an honor to have you.
I'm flattered, man. Thank you for those kind words. That's a great introduction. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm happy we're together right now for this session.
Absolutely, man. You are welcome. And I pride myself on my integrity and my intentions, and I don't have just anybody on the channel. So those are really true words, where over the last couple of years, as I've gotten to know you, I know that you are a man of your word. You have high integrity. It's obvious that when you're talking about your family and your passions and crypto, that you care about people, that you don't just have this YouTube channel so that you can get famous and be some big shot or something, that you're really there because you believe that crypto can help people change their lives. So definitely love you, man, because you're such a good-hearted person. And anyways, I just excited really for you to be able to give the viewers a little bit of your background and a little bit of where you came from. We were talking off camera, and it sounds like you really bought your first crypto and got started in crypto in December of 2020, which, for the viewers that have been around crypto for a while, will know that that was right about the time the last bull market kicked in. So you got to experience Bitcoin go from, I don't know, 12, 13,000 all the way up to $64,000 by about May of 2021. So, tell us a little bit about, what was that like jumping into crypto in 2021, and what was that experience like in, getting that 5 or 6 months of that initial bull run?
That was surreal. Like, for real, that was surreal. The reason was because, like, I think it was 2015 or maybe 2016, I had co-workers that I work with that were like, oh, you got to invest in Bitcoin. It's the next big thing. And I was much more traditional back then, if that makes sense, even though I'm a young guy. But I was like, nah, crypto, that's, it's a scam. It's not going anywhere. It's ridiculous. It's blah, blah, blah. And then for some reason, back in 2020, like you said, December of 2020, I got interested because it was, upcoming. And I basically fell for the things other people fell for as well. So more news outlets started to post on it. You have more friends and co-workers talking about it. And I was like, well, maybe I need to change my mind, because that's something that I like to do throughout my entire life, is to adapt to certain situations, and not to stare yourself blindly on your own thoughts or the things that you would think are right. So I started investing small bits, and then I ramped it up from January to April, rode it all the way up. I really had that, like the old Westerns, like the gold rush. I was like, oh, this is amazing, and I was actually participating in private sales as well, because, you start to get more, the longer you are in this game, the more people you get to know, and the more things you hear from real life people, but also from the people you meet online, like you, or, any other person that you might meet online. So I dabbed my toes in private sales, and I got that real gold fever, and I started to invest a lot, and then I rode it all the way up. And then instead of taking profits, I rode it all the way down again, just because there was one day when I actually did take out everything, and I was like, oh yeah, this is nice. It wasn't life-changing money, but it was it felt like life-changing money, if that makes sense, So to me, there's two ways how you can address crypto. One is with the intention to become filthy rich. That's like the when Lambo questions, you know. But you can also get into crypto and be like, look, if you try to, like in the regular market, try to double or triple your money, right? That's nearly impossible. And in crypto, it's actually far more easier to do than not, for instance. So if you look at your growth percentage wise, you can actually do a very good job if you doubled your money. That itself is very good. You don't need that 10x or you don't need that 100x. And I actually made a video about it, why you probably won't make the 100x anyways. But I just, when the day happened and I took everything out, I was like, oh, this is amazing. But then, you know, everybody said, buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. So I bought the dip, thinking it will go back up again. I put some stop losses in it because I became smarter over time. You know, you start to read up, you start to learn from previous mistakes. And then I got distracted from work because, you know, I was doing this next to my full-time job. Got a call from a coworker. The day went on. I saw that Solana was actually below. I think the stop loss was around 200. And I think when I looked at it at the end of the day, it was around 180. And just for your knowledge, I invested in it when it was 220. That's when I put in all the money I took out of BNB, put it in Solana, and then forgot to put the stop loss in it. And then, you know, it went through it, and then it was 180. And it was like, okay, well, when it goes back to 200, so the classic mistake, when it goes back to 200, that's when I will sell everything rather than taking my losses or cutting my losses. And then it went down, and it went down some more, and it went down some more. And I didn't, like, my mindset was set on where it used to be rather than what I still could have had if I would have taken my money out. So now what I'm doing is, and I actually talked about this in my Telegram as well, is that I actually, even though we're not in a full-blown bull market, I actually started taking money out already due to the fact that I don't think the bull market is over. It's far from over, but I don't want to make the same mistakes I made back then. You know? So that's basically my background story on what happened and how I got into crypto. And, you know, and then obviously I've got my YouTube channel, and then I was like, I've actually got another YouTube channel. So I've been active on YouTube since 2018, I believe. And then because of all the things I've learned there, which is about videography and photography, so editing photos and editing videos, the things I've learned over there, I could use to create these crypto with Rico videos. But my belief is also that the best way to learn something is to teach about it. Because if you teach people something about a certain subject, they are going to ask you questions that you haven't heard before, that you have to think about. And those questions will make you smarter because you either have to search for the answers or you already know the answer or you're getting a variation of that answer or the question. So the more videos I produce, or this is how I look at it, you know, the more videos I produce about all the different projects that there are, so RWAs, layer ones, just whatever you can think of, the smarter I become in the space and the more I can utilize my knowledge to help others and myself, obviously, to grow in this space. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I definitely appreciate you, sharing all of that and kind of, bearing your soul, being vulnerable. Welcome to the club. I mean, I don't know anybody that made millions in their first bull market and held on to all of it. Including me. My story is slightly different, but I did very, very well during that time frame too. And I did not cash out anywhere near enough at the top. And then through a combination of life, I haven't had a job since about 2019. So I spent all of 22 and 23 living off of my crypto assets. And of course, not only were, I'm spending, several $1,000s a month on life, but they all went down by 75 to 99% also. And so it definitely put me in a pinch, and I'm kind of rebuilding. But, I was just talking about that with my son and his good friend and the editor of the channel, Will, about how a lot of times it takes people 2 or 3 cycles to get it right. So everything that you went through over the last 4 years has positioned you to take advantage of this next, 6 to 12 to 18 months. I'm with you. I don't think that we're anywhere near where we're going to be. This last few months has been definitely out of the ordinary. It's the first time that Bitcoin has ever even come close to its previous all-time high, much less breaking through its all-time high before the halving. And so I'm with you. I think that we've got some amazing times to come. One of the things that I liked about what you just said, even though I do agree with it, but I don't agree with it. But I loved how you talked about if you just are content, if you're happy with, three, four, 5X, and even doubling your money, that would be incredible compared to most investing vehicles. And I think one of the things for all of the people that are watching is, I think it's important. Rico said this and I agree with it, that with crypto, if you do anything even remotely correctly, it's near impossible to not two, three, four, 5X your money. I also agree with him that the riskier you go and the bigger you're trying to get, the more likely it is that you may not make it. But at the same time, Rico, I share, a lot of microcap gems and a lot of plays with my viewers that I do think have the potential to 100X or, potentially even do better than that. So I do think that three or four or 5X is slightly on the limiting side. I think that people should be shooting for at least a 10 to maybe even a 25X. I think that that's really very doable with the right tokens and with the right education. When you start trying to shoot for that 7,500, 200, 500X, things can go a little bit sideways on you. But what do you have to say about that? Do you think it's too greedy to be trying to get, a 10 or 25X out of this bull market?
Let me give you a little bit more context behind my reasoning why I said that. So what happens is people go up, let's say 8 times, yeah? And then their focus is on the 10X, but they forget that they are already up 8 times. And that's percentage wise, that's a lot. So if they focus on the 10X and we drop down to that 5X and they don't take their loss, they don't cut their losses or actually take the profits because they're still up 5Xs because they have their focus on the 10X, then they risk losing everything that they had and they end up with nothing. So to prevent that, it might be best to DCA out, for instance. So obviously you don't have to sell everything when you're already 3 times up, but at least take out your initial, for instance. And big disclaimer, I'm not a financial registered advisor and all that type of things. But one of the things I talked about in my video is that even if you hit a 100X project, because that's what we're talking about right now, a project that can do 100X or that is doing 100X, you're going to tell me that you won't take out any profits at like a 50X or like a 40X or maybe a 60X. Every like basic thinking human being, for instance, would probably take out some of the money. And I forgot the calculation that I made, but it was something like, okay, so if you have 10,000 and you take out 1,000, it's going to take you another couple of X's to get that 100X of your initial investment because you already took out a small portion. So if you're talking about a true 100X on your initial investment, you have to calculate that, and then you don't need a 100X, you need a 150X to have an original 100X. So that's the context of my reasoning, that I don't believe people will hit 100X unless it happens overnight when they're asleep, because everybody will probably take out some money along the way.
Okay, fair enough. That makes sense. I guess it also depends on a person's strategy, how much time they have available. Back in 2020, I was already kind of full time in crypto. I probably jumped into crypto before I should have. But so I didn't necessarily make 100X on individual projects, but I would take $1,000 and turn it into 5 or 10,000 in a crypto. And then a lot of times, during a bull market, there's so many new coins hitting the market, so many new narratives, that I didn't really hold one token from the beginning of the bull market, till the end of the bull market. So, but what I would do then is, as I increased my portfolio, I remember telling my dad one day, man, like I used to never buy more than $200, $300, $400, $500 worth of a token. Now I'm buying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 of a token. And so, I agree with you. I did have a couple 100Xs, but for the most part, it was with, smaller amounts of money invested, like 500 or $1,000 invested, that it did go up to, 50,000 or 100 grand for me. But most of even though my portfolio 100X'd, during the last bull market, it was mostly taking, a token that 10X'd and pulling out a bunch of the profit, as you mentioned, letting part of it ride, but then reinvesting. So one of the things that I always did is, this money, when I pulled it out, it wasn't to go on vacations or to buy anything with, not until I had my goal.
Yeah.
So, I when I sold a token and I made 10 grand on it, I didn't go out and blow the money. I invested that 10 grand into some more tokens. So I see what you're saying. Yeah, I agree that if you're just looking to pile your money into a handful of tokens and hoping that they're going to 100x, I would say that that is pretty pie in the sky. Not going to probably happen. So fair enough. So if you don't mind me asking, I'm a big fan of clarity. I really believe that the more that you have a goal defined, or like for instance, it's not enough for me to just say, I want to have $1 million. In order to really make that happen, in order to make it real, I'm one of the type of people that believe, hey, I'm going to have $1 million by June 1st, 2025, 2025. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to work my way backwards and be like, okay, I'm going to turn that into what do I need to do today, to be on the right path. But I'm just curious, do you have any type of kind of a financial goal, or a where you would like to see yourself at financially by the end of this bull market?
That's a great question. And I've basically got two answers because throughout the years, my life has changed. And so has my risk appetite, but so has my responsibilities, because I have a family to provide for rather than just me. So when I was like young, so let's say between the age of 15 and 25, I always said the same thing to everybody, which was I will make my first 1 million euros, because we're in the Netherlands, I will make my first 1 million euros at the age of 40. So before I'm 40 years old, I wanna have earned 1 million euros. And then someone said, "Well, what if it's 800,000? Are you gonna sob?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna sob. But I won't use that 800,000. My focus is on the million." And I actually, in my workspace, which is now a kids' room, which was downstairs, I had a sign, a whiteboard. I had a whiteboard, and on that whiteboard, I've written down the first thing to do: become a millionaire. And then on the second line, and now I switch those. On the second line was I want to be, the best dad I can be for my daughters and family life. So those are goals that I've written down. And then beneath that, I've written down like numbers. I'm not gonna mention them here, but numbers to check off. So if I hit a certain number, I checked it off. I was like, okay, bam. Now I'm working towards the next one. So I do have a clear goal, which still is getting my first million before I'm 40 years old, and not through an inheritance, please, God forbid, but just due to hard work and stuff. Because since I was a little kid, and without going into too much details, I had to do everything myself. I didn't get any help, so I'm a self-made man. I'm not a millionaire. I'm far from a millionaire, but I am self-made. So everything that I've achieved up until now, I've done by myself. So I didn't get any loans. Obviously I have a mortgage for my house, but other than that, I've never had a loan. I was never able to go into the red with the bank, if that makes sense. Sometimes you have like a credit, like a 1,000
Yep.
or 10,000 credit that so I never used that. I don't have a student debt. I never had a student debt before. So I just worked my ass off, had one goal in mind, which was I want to be a millionaire before I turn 40, or I want to have earned €1 million before I turn 40, and just stuck with that like religiously. And if it's not doing one thing, it's doing another thing. And a great example of that is that I had a job which I didn't like, which happens quite a lot in my life, but I had a job that I didn't like. And then I was like, I want to do something else. I want to grow as a person. As I mentioned a minute ago, I continuously have the need to grow. I'm like a sponge. I need new, like my girlfriend's like, you're always turned on. Why? Can't you just sit down and do nothing? Even when I'm cooking, I have a tablet in front of me playing a documentary, which is about money or which is about something in the world that I find very interesting, just to take all that information in me that will help me when I talk to certain people. So you always have something to talk, stuff like that. So I had a job I didn't like, and then I wanted to do, because I was helping, I was working with natural persons, but I want to go into the enterprise and the business section, like the corporate side of the banking, the finance world, the finance world. So I had to apply for a job. I just bought my house. This is a true story. I bought my house. So I needed in the Netherlands. If you buy a house, you either need a contract, which is like an indefinite contract. So it doesn't have a term for years, like 1 year or 2 years. It's indefinite. Or you need a employer to say like, okay, I have the intention to hire him for good. If that makes sense. So I was working for a company which I didn't like, but I needed that paper because otherwise I couldn't buy the house I wanted to buy. So I went there, I asked them to give me that paper. They did, so they cooperated with that. I purchased the house, and then the same day I went to the notary's office and signed my signature to so the house was mine. The same day I drove up to their office with my letter of resignation and saying, "Look, I'm done. We're done. You know, whatever happens, I don't care. We're done." And then I applied for a new job, which was in the same town where I purchased the house at a corporate department. So actually something that I aspired to do. And then I was like there, and then within a year, I didn't fit in, and that sometimes that basically happens a lot in my life that I don't fit in for some reason. Don't ask me why, but that made me decide to become a sole proprietor. I think that's the right word in English. So I work for myself basically, and then I get hired by financial institutions, and then I did that in that field of work, so the corporate side of things, and then there was a because there's a certain hour rate that you get, but with that hour rate I knew I'm not becoming a millionaire before I'm 40, so that means something needs to change. And then I saw a different application or a job application which actually had which was like, I think it was 25 euros more, or maybe let's say 30, it was 30 euros more than what I made originally. And I read the requirements for the job, and I'm like, you know, I was young. I was like, I can do that. You know, I don't have that degree, but I don't care. So I've applied for the job. They actually made me come to the headquarters, had a talk for 45 minutes, and then they called me the same day, and they said, look, we want to hire you because we liked, you know, we liked the application that you sent in, and we liked the conversation we had with you, but you have to extract 10 euros from your hour rate, from your rate. So you have to lower it by 10 euros. And I'm like, that's still up 20 euros from where I came from. So whatever. So I was like, fine, I'm fine with that, you know, with the agreement that if it turned out good, you know, if the cooperation together, if it worked out great, I would get the 10 euros back. So we had a 3-month term for that. No, one not good. So then, and here's the fun part. This is, if I'm getting too long, just let me know. But the fun part is, after a month, because it was a small background story, it was a new department in the field of KYC. So we had to we had to come up with everything from scratch, because it was something new that had to be built up within that bank, right? So throughout the entire month, I was like, we need to automate this. We need something that if you check, like, okay, he's doing business with Sudan, for instance, and you check that box, then we need to get like 10 or 20 questions we need to ask that customer, or that we need to know from that customer, that have to do with the risks involved, you know, when doing business with a country like that, or Cuba, or, you know, something like that. And then after a month, I had to come to the manager's office, and he was like, this is not going to work, man. Your work is horrible, and 95% of the reports I've written were bad, and only 5% were good. But then something magical happened, because it became automated. And then it switched. So it went from 5% good to 5% bad, and 95% good rather than 95% bad. And then the manager was like, I don't think you became a better analyst overnight. And I was like, no, I'm not. However, I always said this needs to be automated. And for the, you know, I'm good with the words and explaining myself. So I was able to explain myself, and they said, okay, we're going to try it another month with you. And I was like, because otherwise I would have been out of a job, you know, and that would have put me farther away from my original goal. So after that month, everything was great. And right now I'm actually a specialist in that field. You know, people love my experience in it. I've trained hundreds of people. I've created presentations. I've created trainings about sanctions, corruptions, money laundering, all those things. So I basically I basically turned from someone that they actually wanted to get rid of to someone they would actually love to have in their organization, due to all the knowledge that I have, the ability to bring the message as well. And
Right.
that's something, and the same goes for like with my YouTube adventure right now. For the viewers watching this, you don't know this, but I turned full-time YouTuber last month because I was doing another job that I don't like in the KYC field, however, but I was at a department I didn't like, and I was like, you know, I've had enough. I got to do what I want to do, which I love to do, which is crypto, do this full time. And then boom, you know, we're in the first month, and numbers wise, it's going great. And I always have the firm belief that if you have a passion for something and you have a full 200% dedication, you will make it. You might not make it as easy as someone else, because you always have something that's, you've got someone that has natural talent and you have someone that's got taught talent. And someone that has natural talent will always perform better than someone that has taught talent, because it just comes more natural. But if you put everything in it, you are going to make it regardless of what it is. And you have to keep believing yourself, and you have to withstand the naysayers around you, because most of the times when you come up with an idea, so let's take crypto because it's fairly new, we're in a bubble, let's be honest, a lot of crypto are out of, more people are out of crypto rather than in crypto. And when you talk about a lot of people about crypto, like I was back then, oh, it's a scam, right? And oh, I read that Sam Bankman-Fried, and oh, did you lose money, stuff like that. And if you go like, oh yeah, you're right, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't follow this path, or I shouldn't this, you're withholding yourself from opportunities to make it in life, regardless of what it is. Now I'm talking about crypto, but it can be anything. So just, if you have the faith in yourself, keep that faith in yourself, go for it regardless of what anyone says, and you will be able to make it.
Yeah, man, I love that. I was just doing a video a couple of days ago that was talking about the dream stealers, in your life, and how often, a lot of times, it's the people that are the closest to you that maybe even have good intentions, that that dampen that fire and that extinguish that flame in so many people's lives, and they never even get started because they get excited about something like that, and then they get, a few people that were negative about it, and they quit before they even took the first step. On that note, I never asked you, like, how did you get involved in crypto? You said you started in 2020, but like, how did you hear about crypto? How did you decide, hey, I'm going to start buying some of this, and really decide that crypto was something that made sense to you?
At first, I had a couple of coworkers talking about it, and then they were talking about all the gains that they were making back. So that was in like 2016, maybe 2017. I think it was the first bull market, something along those lines. And then I heard them when everything crashed. I was like, you see, I was right. I told you, I was right. And then everybody was stopped talking about it. And then I basically fell for the trap. And in hindsight, that's a good thing. I fell for the trap, when big news outlets start to talk about it, and you see more and more people entering crypto. And I was thinking, like, because I already knew about crypto, I was like, hey, like I said, maybe I need to change my mindset as well, because that's something that I believe in as well. You need to adapt throughout your entire life and have a go at it. And, that's basically what got me here right now.
Awesome. Nice. So, what are you focused on? Like, I know that you do a lot of, you put out a pretty substantial amount of content. You're covering a lot of different projects. Are there any narratives or types of projects that you gravitate to? Like, what are you sharing with your community, and what do you really, like you said earlier, not financial advice, but what would you, tell somebody that's watching this video and that's, trying to navigate through this crypto minefield? Like, what direction are you pointing people in? Are you just telling them to buy, everything in the top 25? Are you recommending some tokens that are a little bit further down the rabbit hole, or what is your strategy for maximizing your returns over this next 12 months or so?
Yeah, depending on the money you've got available, um, and you're willing to lose, basically, because you can lose everything. I would just diversify it into the top coins, so a little bit of Bitcoin, but a little bit of Ethereum, maybe Solana as well, and then move to the mid cap coins, and then maybe get a small bag, like 10% for the small cap coins. And one thing I would advise people, like you said, we're not registered financial advisors, is to not chase green candles, and not to um, roulette your money with projects that haven't pumped before. So sometimes what happens is that you hold it back, let's say 10 projects, and then 9 of them pumped and one didn't. And then it's not moving. Let's take Chainlink for instance. Oh, it's not moving. I'm gonna take it out because there's so much more. I see this doing 50% and 20%, and they take it out, and then they put it in something that already pumped, and then Chainlink starts to pump. So
Yes.
that's something I taught myself as well, to not roulette my holdings backs too much, and especially not things that haven't pumped as much just yet. Um, so that's one thing. And then in regards to the narrative, I know that most influencers, and I have been talking about this on my channel as well, is the AI and GameFi narrative. However, I do believe that AI is amazing, right? Awesome. GameFi, amazing, awesome. GameFi is definitely something that there's a use case for in the blockchain space, 100%. However, because of that, because of the success of AI and GameFi, there will be a lot of projects trying to take advantage of it and just slapping an AI label on them or slapping a GameFi logo on them, and that will get you wrecked. So it's basically, the more popular something becomes and is right now, actually the more dangerous it becomes, rather than, oh, this is going to happen, because nobody knows what's going to happen, because we have, it's the same reason why I don't give out like price targets on my videos, for instance, because all those influencers say like, oh, this is happening, this is going to happen, this narrative, blah 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 blah. Then one day everything crashes down, and here they come, all those videos, I was wrong, I'm selling right now, I'm blah blah blah. They all make the same content because everybody watches each other, and they've got researchers, and oh, this is hot right now, so we need to make a video about it. So because most people have an entire team for it, so rather than focusing on that, I would focus on narratives that haven't been talked about just yet. And one of them, for instance, is the banking narrative. It's something that I think people are 100% sleeping on it. Same as that I believe that people are sleeping on Zero, so Kronos, for instance, from crypto.com, because it's not pumping, it's not moving very much, it's not popular, people aren't talking about it. No, but there's a reason for it, and they are actually building, and they are, what I like about crypto.com, for instance, is that Binance has to withdraw from a lot of markets, right? So the Dutch market as well, they couldn't get a license from our national bank and stuff. Crypto.com was able to do so. So that says something, because we have very high standards in this country when it comes to banks, due to the banking crisis and everything that happened in Iceland, and back then in, I think it was 2008. So I think they will do very, very great in the bull run, because they are able to cater to a lot of people. Same with Coinbase stock, for instance. I knew that when crypto was going up, I immediately started, and this is not advice, don't do what I did, but I immediately bought Coinbase stocks, because I knew if crypto is going to go wild, so will that stock, because everybody's using that platform. And there you have it. My money went like ×3, and that's a lot in the regular stock market for just the stock. So, but the banking narrative, due to all the licenses and the MiCA Act that's going active in, I think it was 30th of June or something, that means that a lot of exchanges won't be able to conduct business with us again. I'm sorry, man, I'm talking so much and my throat's hurting, but can't do business here in Europe anymore. And then these guys who are having the licenses, so Ethereum is one of them, Scallop, which is now e-money network, they are one of them. They are Scallop, for instance, is a regulated modular blockchain, so licensed. So that will probably start pumping, because that's like a infrastructure play, or there's an actual use case for something like that, because you can use that platform and IBAN on chain and stuff like that. So, but it's not hot, it's a banking narrative. Oh, it's not as fun as a game, or it's not as fun as, like, what's a great game right now, Shrapnel, I believe, and that other game, I forgot the name, but it's all over the internet. But yeah, I would definitely think ahead of the game and think outside of the box, rather than in the bubble where everybody's in, because people need to realize that when you're watching YouTube, you get the content that you're watching. So if you're watching like influencers talk about AI coins and GameFi coins, YouTube algorithm will give you more videos about AI and GameFi, and that will give you confirmation bias, thinking you're on the right path, because, oh, he's talking about it, she's talking about it. Then you're going to make your decisions based on that, and then you might, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but then you might get burned or miss out on other great opportunities that are still there,
Right. Do you have any tokens that you've covered recently that you're excited about?
Yeah, one of them is Meta Exit, but I have to say, big disclaimer, I'm a bit biased because I'm part of their team as a marketing guy. I do videos for them. I know the CEO for many years now, because he approached me right when he started this project, because we knew each other before through FVC, for instance. Another project I'm actually very enthusiastic about lately is e-money network, due to the things that they do. So IBAN on chain, for instance. Let me see what else I've been covering. GPU.net, that's actually a project that I think has a lot of potential. I've made a couple of videos about them, but I do have a feeling that they are figuring out things on the go. So I think GPU.net, and I don't know if this is the case, yeah? I don't actually hold an interest in it. I do have a note, but there's no really interest about me promoting this. So just as a disclaimer. But the reason why I'm saying is I think they become more popular than they thought initially. and they still need to figure stuff out, like documents and how to run the nodes and stuff like that. Because they become so popular, they have to really ramp up that information funnel, and you would expect a project from that caliber to have it all set in stone before they went to the market or whatever. You can tell by the questions being asked by the community, and then later on you see them implementing things that were being asked. But I think that's a project that will do very well if they are able to deliver, because it's got a lot of hype. They got Alex Becker backing them, they got Elliot Trades backing them, and they have a great product, which is the GPU stuff inside for AI.
Awesome. Yeah, you mentioned something a couple of minutes ago that I thought was really important that I wanted to go back over for all of the viewers. And that was when you talked about, like you're invested in Chainlink and it's not doing anything. You're looking at CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap. You're watching all these other tokens that are, doing these crazy numbers. And then you, like you said, you kind of get that shiny object syndrome, and you sell your Chainlink and pour it into one of these tokens. And man, it's just almost always doesn't work out. I've had that experience, and so I just wanted to reiterate it. Almost always, the new token that you buy has already had this huge pump, and it starts going down. And then to make you really sad, it's usually right after you sell the Chainlink or whatever token you sold that it really starts going up. I remember early in my crypto career when my dad and I were investing in things, and I didn't have a whole lot of money. And so a lot of times a new token would come in front of us that we wanted to buy, and we would kind of go through our portfolio and be like, well, maybe we could sell a little bit of this, sell a little bit of this, sell a little bit of this. And I realized very quickly that I didn't enjoy doing that, because instead of having, I had to depend on two outcomes at that point. I had to hope that the coin that I'd sold didn't go up, and then I had to hope that the new coin that I bought outperformed the coin that I sold. And so I always found, that it's much better to try to find a way to get some new cash flow and to create some new funds to buy the next token with, versus, doing a bunch of, trading from one token back to another. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. I think that was a very helpful point. It kind of goes along. I was talking I think it might have been yesterday, actually. I did a YouTube video titled something like the number one mistake that you are making that's keeping you from having, real success in cryptocurrency. And I kind of turned it into the two number ones, and they were really, kind of just the polar opposite. So the number one thing that I think that most people are doing, that's the biggest mistake that they're making, is that they're not patient enough. And that really goes along, with what you were talking about. They jump into the market, they're expecting the riches in a week or a day or a month or even 6 months, versus looking at, like, I think a lot of wealth can be created over the next 12 months. But I know for sure if you give yourself 5 years, you're going to absolutely crush it. And so, I am a big proponent of helping people get financial freedom during this bull market, but I'm also letting people know, hey, if we don't quite get there, it's okay, because you're going to be able to take all the money that you made and you're going to be able to pull a bunch of it out. And then when the market crashes, as it inevitably will, and probably, late 25, 26, and 27 are not probably going to be great for crypto if anything that we've seen in history repeats itself. So now you take all of that money that you made over the next 12 months, invest it over that couple of years when it's down low. And then when we have the bull run of 28 going into 29, at the very latest, and I tell people all the time, man, you're working for another job right now that you don't like, and you're 30 years old, 40 years old, you're going to have to do that for another 20, 30, 40 years. So why can't you give yourself 5 years to really make it, in crypto? So, but I thought, it was kind of funny, because this came to me really while I was talking about the number one mistake being that they're too patient. But the second number one mistake, in my opinion, is that most people aren't in a big enough hurry. So, it contradicts itself. But at the same time, what I mean by that is I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I've got all sorts of friends and family members and people that have come to me and asked me for my advice, and I've poured into them and I've given them, everything that I can, my blueprint for how to be successful. And then I go talk to them a month or 6 months later and they still haven't even bought their first crypto. And so I think that a lot of people are not in a big enough hurry because they never get started, and they always have, these reasons. Well, I can't afford to invest in crypto. I'm just barely making it. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Go get a second job. I was doing the math yesterday on this video. Like, if you go Uber here, in the United States, you go Uber for 3 or 4 hours and just make yourself $50 and invest that $50 into crypto, you're really not making $50 a day in Uber. You're probably making 250 or 500 a day if you're willing to let that ride for the next 12 months. As we talked about, 5x is almost inevitable, and probably a lot of these tokens are going to 10x. So you're not making $50 a day in those 4 hours. You're making $500 a day. If you just go Uber 5 days a week for the next year and use that money for crypto, that $50 a day turns into $125,000 in a year. And so a lot of my channel is based on the fact that I believe, there's a gentleman named Jim Rohn that's one of the pioneers of personal development that says, if you come into $1 million suddenly, you best become a millionaire so that you get to keep the money. And so many people don't realize that if this doesn't change, no matter how much money comes into their life, it's not going to be a blessing. A lot of times it can be a curse if they haven't become the person, that can handle it. So it sounds like you're of a similar mindset, and that you talked about when you're cooking, you're always watching things on your iPad. So it sounds like, you're already immersed in some personal development yourself. Do you have any favorite books that you've ever read, or what do you do to work on your mindset and work on becoming the man that can handle the wealth that you're trying to create?
That's a good question, because I've read many books. There's one which is online, which is an audiobook as well. It used to be on YouTube. I think it was a Dale Carnegie book or something. I forgot the name, but it's maybe I should send it to you and then you can put it in the description or something. But I read those books like Think and Grow Rich, for instance. The 7 Habits of Successful People. I even there's a thing called past reality integration, which talks about there's like 5 layers in a human being. So you've got you've got shame, guilt, a false sense of power, a false sense of hope. And then you've got the denial of needs. I don't know if that rings a bell, but basically, if you know what that is about, you can get along with anyone around you, but you can also handle any situation that you're in. And the reason for that is because you're going to realize what is happening at that moment in time. You can act accordingly and prevent it from escalating or becoming worse or turning it around and making it better, and then I think if there's things you need to work on as a person, it's not a shame to ask for help. It's not a shame to ask for help to the people around you. It's not a shame to go to a psychologist, for instance. There's nothing wrong with you if you need help. If that helps you achieve your dreams and your goals, do whatever it takes, if that makes sense.
Awesome. I love it. It's funny. I've read all 3 of those books that you mentioned. Think and Grow Rich. You mentioned How to Win Friends, or no, I think is the Dale Carnegie book you were talking about, How to Win Friends and Influence People, by any chance?
Yeah, that one too. But there's a
different one.
I know. There's like 13 chapters in that one book or something about, and there's a story about Henry Ford, about how he doesn't know everything, but he said, look, I've got a button on my desk. If I press it, I will get the answer that you need from someone that knows, what's going on. And that influenced me as well. I used to because my background is I had to do everything from scratch. I had to do everything myself when I was a kid, stuff like that. So my mindset throughout the years was always, if I can't do it, it can't be done, stuff like that. But then now that I've become older and I've met people that actually added value to my life, in the shape of my girlfriend, obviously, the shape of my children. My children are teaching me things every day, co-workers and stuff, that gave me sufficient sufficient I forgot that word, but that made me that helped change my mindset into, look, I don't have to do everything myself because there are people that can do certain things better than I can. You can always work together with them to get a better result, so.
Awesome, man. Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on to the channel and imparting, your wisdom and telling us a little bit about your story. Before I let you head out and go get a little bit of sleep, I think it's closing in on, I don't know, 11, 12 o'clock your time at night.
20 past 11, yeah.
Right. What, do you have any parting words for the viewers? Anything that, just some last second advice on how to, navigate this next 3, 6, 9, 12 months and then feel free to, we're going to put all of the links to, your socials in the description, but if you want to, tell people the best place to find you and that kind of stuff, I'm just going to give you the floor here for the last minute or two.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I love being here. All my socials will be in the description, obviously. One final thing I would say to people is, don't be afraid to fail, because you will fail in this bull market. You will fail in crypto. But I like to use this anecdote, right? If you have an athlete that always wins, he or she doesn't know what losing is. And if you don't know what losing is, you don't know what you've done wrong, and you can't grow from it. You can't learn from it. So sometimes you have to lose. You have to end up in second, or you have to end up in third to realize what can be done better, which will help you become the number one player again, or to help you become successful in life, or whatever you want to roll this anecdote over. So don't beat yourself up on things, and also cut your losses if you have to, because we talked about this off camera as well. Most people only see the end result, so the success, the expensive cars, the big mansions, or the MTV cribs or whatever, but they don't see what has happened prior to that, where the people came from. And then usually even the most successful business people in the world have had to file for bankruptcy somewhere along the way for one of their companies before they found out, like, look, this is what's going to make it. So everybody in life fails. Don't beat yourself up for it, and just keep faith in yourself, in your belief. If you have that, and you will make it 100%.
Amen. I got a good friend that says, it's not failure unless it causes you to quit.
Exactly.
So, I love this saying too, like, 2 things you got to do to be successful in crypto: get started and don't quit.
Exactly.
Somewhere in between, you're going to figure it out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Awesome, man. Well, God bless. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. I look forward to seeing you again. And one of these days, hopefully maybe towards the end of this bull run, when we both have, millions of dollars lying around, we'll actually end up, at a Bitcoin conference or go spend some time on a tropical paradise. But I hope that I actually have an opportunity, to shake your hand and give you a great big bear hug in person one of these days.
Yeah, that would be awesome, man. Looking forward to it. Definitely.
Awesome, man. Well, go and enjoy the rest of your night. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.